guys, welcome back to another episode of the Retail Perch. It looks like summer's setting in and we're kind of trying to take it slow here a little bit, enjoy the weather. Gary, good to have you on.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a little while, Shekar.
Yeah, it has. And I think like Stephanie, our producer, says when it rains, it pours. And I think we just got a whole bunch of guests coming on to the Retail Perch, but we need to get back to our A game here, Gary. So
That's right. So now that the smoke is hopefully cleared back east.
that's right. I went up to Canada and sent the smoke down south. So
Okay. Right.
I guess I blew real hard.
We even had smoke here in Colorado. We had a lot of rain, and I was just out, went through Independence Pass 2 weeks ago, and believe it or not, there is still 6 feet of snow up there, and people are still skiing up on top.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Anyway, so I think the last episode, Gary, was a fun one. We had a virtual guest on.
That's right.
GPT as a guest. And in case you're listening to this episode and you want to find out how that went, you may want to check back on the ChatGPT episode. I think ChatGPT gave some really cool answers to some of our questions. And we were, well, surprised in some cases and not so surprised in others. But it's here to stay.
Well, that's right. That's right. And growing fast.
That's right. So anyway, so here today, we don't have a virtual guest, although you'll be listening to this guest virtually. We have a real guest in here. That's Justin Chen, who's the co-founder of PickFu. And we're going to have him come on and introduce himself. He's got a long bio. I was reading his LinkedIn profile. He's done some really cool stuff and serial entrepreneur. So welcome, Justin, to the Retail Perch. Great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm the co-founder of PickFu, and it's essentially a self-service consumer research service. We're trying to bring enterprise-grade market research down to anyone. So anyone who's doing the job, essentially. So marketers, product designers, social media managers, anyone who needs to get fast feedback on anything.
Neat. So, Matt, Justin, maybe give us a bit of your background and what led you or what got you to what you're doing today.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess going way back, I came out of college. My co-founder and I came out, and we're both engineers by trade. I went to Hewlett-Packard. He went to Microsoft. We did the corporate thing for a few years. And then we actually started our own business. It was actually a restaurant menu aggregator website that we were self-funding and running. While running that, we came upon the need for a redesign and getting feedback on the redesign. And that's actually where PickFu came from. Being engineers, we're like, let's just build it ourselves. And as entrepreneurs, we were tired of asking our friends and family for feedback, and they were just not being useful anymore. And so we wanted to build a way to kind of do a digital focus group. So, kind of like going into the coffee shop and asking people, what do you think about this design or that design? Which one do you like? And more importantly, give written feedback. So, a lot of people use Facebook ads or some other ad system to generate clicks. And while you may get some interesting quantitative data, you don't get that qualitative data of understanding why they like something more than the other one. So that's kind of the core of the platform we built. Is it's very simple survey. You ask a single question, upload a couple creatives, choose your target audience, and it's off and running. Probably takes a minute to set up. Typically results are done in 30 minutes. So super fast, really easy to use, no expertise required. And that kind of sat as a side project for a number of years as we were building our other business. And, we've kind of got all kinds of different users started using it. We had authors testing book titles and book covers, and game companies testing characters and app icons. And then retail brands started coming and testing marketing creatives and eventually product packaging and product design, even doing early idea validation. So, maybe you're a mom and you've got kids, like, would you feed them this? Or, would you buy this product? And just using it as that digital focus group.
Wow.
Cool. So where do you get your audience to?
Yeah, so we tap into the same enterprise market research panels that, let's say, Procter & Gamble would use, or any of your research consultants would be tapping into. But we do it in a programmatic way, and we layer on our own layer of demographic targeting and data quality on top of it. So we reduce the need for a consultant to come in and clean up the data and analyze the data because we have kind of very constrained survey formats, we're able to automatically interpret the data for you. And we're also providing some AI summaries and insights on top of that human data, kind of similar to probably what you guys were talking about, the ChatGPT one. So yeah, it's all self-service. You don't need to engage with an agency or a consultant for it. And we're trying to make sure that everyone in a large company or anyone who's running their own business is able to tap into this kind of research. Whereas before it was kind of limited to companies that had a consumer insights team or a budget to hire some kind of research agency.
Got it. So is this offered up as a, like, here's a piece of code, stick it on your website, and that's going to lead you to a survey, or is it?
No, so it's we bring the audience, and it's a self-service service, right? So you would just log into PickFu.com, you would start a survey, ask a question, or use one of our pre-built templates, upload your creatives, and then within a matter of minutes, we're going to go out, find the people, pay them, bring them in, clean up the data, and automatically present it back to you. So you can just sit there, drink your coffee, and watch the results come in.
Well, and someone using your service can leverage all the data you have of audience and sort of fine tune what type of audience they want to ask.
Yeah, exactly. So we have over different I think 90 targeting traits. So we have the basic demographics like age and gender and that kind of thing. But we also have behavioral type things like do they drink tea or coffee or alcohol or have a cat or a dog? These kinds of things. Maybe what diet they're on. So a lot of consumer driven behaviors are targetable. And it makes it so that you can really see if your creatives or your designs are resonating with your target audience.
So how is the end person who's taking the survey, how are they accessing the survey?
Yeah, so since we work with a lot of the existing panels, I mean, there's a lot of different avenues. They might be emailed the survey, they might be using an app that notifies them that there's a new thing they can do to get paid. So there's a lot of different mechanisms. We do, in front of our surveys, we do require them to agree to a non-disclosure agreement. So sensitive creatives should be safe there. And then we spend a lot of effort just making sure that we prune out people who are, not genuinely answering the questions. And a lot of that is based on the written feedback. And because we require written feedback for every single one of our questions, It's not just a click or a series of clicks. It's actually, they've got to write it out, and we can use a number of means to interpret that data.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. So what got you into thinking, okay, this is a real business? You said it was a side project.
Yeah.
There must have been some trigger that got you into thinking, hey, there's something here.
Yeah, I mean, I think at first it was the amount of positive customer sentiment we had. There were so many people just writing in all the time saying like, oh my God, these decisions that we made based off the PickFu results have just steered us in the right direction, right? It's all about de-risking your time and money investment. And so there were so many of those. And so that kind of got us to more interested in focusing on it. And then really once we found the this retail industry segment, especially people selling on e-commerce, there was a lot higher usage and a lot more need for it, right? Because every decision you're making with a physical product is such an investment. Like you're working with your manufacturer or your printer or your package designer, and so de-risking those investments is just so important to all of our customers. And so we started seeing a lot more growth there, a lot more value to that customer segment. And so that's when we decided to spend all of our time on PickFu and grow out the team. So we've been growing quite a bit over the pandemic, and just scaling out the platform and trying to make it the easiest to use consumer research platform out there.
So would you say you do compete with sites like usertesting.com? Is that kind of like competition?
Not quite. I would say it's a little bit different. User testing is a little bit deeper research, with an individual. I would say that it's lighter, right? So maybe you're testing a creative. You're probably not asking them to walk through and do all this interactive stuff and recording things. So it's more packaging design, or maybe even advertising creatives, or maybe it's a new product concept that you want to get feedback on. So kind of snap judgments and kind of directional feedback.
Right. So not quite Qualtrics, which is like full-fledged surveys.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
So
a
this
lighter
wouldn't be
version.
like your deep 20, 30 question survey where you're trying to get into like the the mindset of
I'm
your audience,
always
but
even,
like, hey, I'm iterating on this. Can
yeah,
I get some rapid feedback from my target audience so I know that I'm like on the right path?
I'm always
And-
scared of these long surveys.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't even like answering them. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. And what's the pricing model look like? Is it, per test or tied to audience size or?
Yeah. Starts at $1 per response, and our lowest amount is 15 responses. So honestly, you could come on our platform, run a $15 15 response poll to the US general audience. Obviously, that will scale with number of respondents, and targeting will be a little bit more expensive. I would say the average poll for most people is like $70 to $100. Just you're probably doing 50 responses with a little bit of targeting. So that's usually a good iteration point.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
super
But
self-service.
yeah, but the benefits of it sound like, easy to use, inexpensive, fast,
Yep.
fast responses.
Yeah, exactly. Because what we found was that this isn't really competing or replacing anything. This wasn't being done, right? A lot of people in these job roles just didn't have the opportunity, or working with your insights team probably is a bigger project, right? It's like, well, we're not going to ask one question. We need to ask like 30 questions, and we need to, make this long survey. So a lot of this was just the team coming up with like, well, we think this is the right decision. So at least you're getting some validation now. Or maybe you're running Facebook ads, but then you're kind of really exposing your creatives to the public, and that's not great either.
So yeah, I'm sure you have some interesting use cases where maybe in the early days of PickFu, you're like, we're onto something here. Did you have any kind of like seminal moment where you said, okay, this is it, guys, we're going to focus this is our next thing?
I think just seeing the success. I mean, we had a few authors become New York Times bestsellers because of the book covers. Obviously, like, book covers are a big deal, even on the digital shelf. We had this one author we did a case study with, where he was working with his publisher, and the publisher had a kind of like a clean professional design, and then he kind of had this other design, which it was like a travel book, so he just kind of had like all these like pictures all over it. And he's like, no, I really believe in this design. And so he ran the PickFu poll against his publisher, thinking he was going to win. Of course, the publisher blew him out of the water. But then he accepted their cover design, and went on to like publish a New York Times bestseller. And so those kinds of stories where you see that it made a really important decision in their lives. And we had a lot of big game companies use it for marketing creatives and app icons, and just have a huge impact on their revenue. So those are the kinds of stories that like motivate us, because these were all people that had nothing to, no way to do this kind of testing before. And so just really empowering anyone in the world. I mean, what's interesting is that only half of our customer base is actually in the US. Like, most of our customers are actually non-US companies who are selling into different countries, and that's where it's even more important to make sure that the things that you're doing are resonating.
Yeah. So I see that you the guys have done a lot of retail as well. I mean, and what's the retail use case here?
Yeah, so more of our retail customers do it with product packaging. I think the packaging is like, that's what's selling your product, right? Like on the shelves. Or kind of like the boxes that like packages come in. So that's the kind of stuff that we see. We'll see customers iterate like on every design aspect of their packaging. So you could start with like the color, and then the font, and even just like, should we put this little call out, like this maybe like the protein count or whatever it is, like very small decisions, and just constantly iterating on them. And so it's just very scientific method approach, right? You change one thing, you test it, you see if it improves. And then at the end, what our savvier customers will do is they'll actually test their product against their competitors, right? So it's fine to come to a local maxima of like a great product packaging or a marketing creative, but at the end of the day, you're still somewhat competing with, especially on the shelf, whether it's the physical or the digital shelf, with your competitors. So is my protein bar going to stand out more to against all the other ones that are literally sitting right next to it?
Right.
So have you seen people use it for like customer sentiment?
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bucket of polls that people run around just gathering kind of like open-ended feedback about things.
Hmm.
So trying to understand like buying patterns and buying behaviors, you will see like a lot of questions around that. Just trying to get into people's minds around situations like I was saying, you could do idea validation around, hey, maybe this is what our brand is, or maybe it's a recognizable brand. We're thinking about selling a product in this direction, and just what do you think about that, and how would you tweak it, right? And then just kind of keep iterating on the idea. That could just be text. It could be, we've seen people do storyboards, kind of sketches, really high level concepts, and then just making sure that you're getting the consumer to give input early in that early stage.
So what is the level of feedback that's required to say, okay, this is reliable? I mean, like how many people need to respond to something for it to be?
I mean, I think that's up to your comfort level, obviously. I think we recommend 50 to 100 just for kind of like basic iteration, and then kind of looking at how well it scores. So if you're able to get like 70 to 80% of the wins on a particular asset, then that's a comfortable level. Some of our larger customers will do 500 or even up to 1,000 on a final asset, like we're going to go to print or something, and this is we want to double check it. But I think as they're iterating, those smaller amounts are enough to show directionally if they're on the right track. And then of course you're going to read through the responses and see, okay, like, yeah, this is the intent, right? Like this is what we wanted them to feel, and we can actually see that in the responses.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, so Gary, I'm thinking back, our some of our retailers, grocery retailers, we hear about store resets, about changing display, moving. I think shoppers are always thinking that retailers have some kind of conspiracy going on about moving these aisles constantly, right?
No, I could see a lot of applications here for retail, from feedback on shopping experience to new services to graphics, important graphics used on e-commerce sites, ads, private label products, etc.
Yeah, because I think we had a couple of guests. I think one was Chase Design on our podcast many years. It seems like years ago, but many moons ago. And I think Cooler Screens. I think they were doing these digital screens on like beverages, overlays, and obviously they were showing ads and content there. But yeah, I mean, I can see there's a lot of micro decisions that you have to make that you kind of gets you directionally in the right direction, like you said, right?
And part of the reason we make the number of responses even as low as 15 is we're trying to build that habit of validating every micro decision, right? So we're trying to bring down the barrier of like, okay, maybe I don't want to spend a few $100s, but I'm willing to spend $50 or $15. If I'm willing to spend $15 on my lunch or my coffee, like, can I at least validate some with 15 random strangers that are my target audience that this font change is like a good direction, right? Whatever it is. So trying to build a habit that you can just come here. It's only going to take you a few minutes to get some data. Something is better than nothing, right? You can discard it if you want, but at least you're going to read their opinions and understand a different viewpoint. And so, exactly. All those micro decisions. The shelf thing you brought up was interesting. One of the interesting tests that I saw one of our customers do for retail actually did a mock-up of the shelving and had all the competing products, and then they kind of just digitally put in their new design. And we have this click test type of survey, and they asked people to click on the ones that they would be interested in picking up or checking out if it was in the actual store. And so like that was an interesting way just to like, all right, well, there's a bunch of stuff on the shelf, like what are you going to click on, or physically what would you check out? But
oh god, companies like Procter and Gamble, Unilever, and others have fortunes on planogram testing, product design, just those types of decisions.
Mhm.
So can a user, I'm assuming, geographically confine an audience?
That's a little tougher. We have regions targeting,
Okay.
so kind of like northeast, northwest kind of stuff.
Okay, so a retailer could at least get down to a region to get
Yeah,
feedback.
yeah. You could do a region, and then we have like community types, so like urban, suburban, rural, and then of course like some of the other demographic things. So maybe with the combination of those things, you might be able to narrow it down.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I was more thinking it would be maybe cool. Maybe this is a roadmap for you, which is a lot of our the retailers that we work with and speak to do surveys constantly. You go to any
Yeah.
retail establishment, you go to a Taco Bell, on the receipt there's on the bottom, there's sign up for this survey and be entered into $100 raffle, right? Things like that. And the response rates on those are abysmal, right? They're
Sure.
really, really low. And at the end of the day, you don't even know if what people are doing with that response, because how long does it take to get the insights? And by the time is it too late to actually do what you
Yeah.
intended, right? Do you see it? Do you see a fit in that market? Um,
I don't know if we would go down that avenue. I think we're focused on getting hypothetical feedback from your target audience. I think there's a ton of players that are doing it for your actual
doing that,
customer
right.
base. But what we have done in the past is kind of build out custom audience segments. So, perhaps there's a particular, psychographic or, some set of audience that you want to reach.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Taco Bell customers or something like that. Not to say that we have that, but that's something that we could build as a custom audience for customers.
Do the people that are providing the answers or feedback, do they get anything? Are they getting paid?
Yeah, they're getting paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's really good. So where do you see this going? I mean, what's the vision here?
I mean, we just want to keep building it out so that everyone who is selling anything to consumers, I mean, and that could be obviously physical products, digital products, software companies, whatever it is, anything to consumers, has a tool to gather feedback. And so what excites us is actually not only the areas that we're already in right now, but as we look at our international customer base and the amount of companies that are spinning up all around the world and selling to this global market. It's super fascinating, and we've opened up our respondent pool to not only be US, but also Australia, UK, Canada, and Germany, with a few more countries coming. And what's cool is with the German one, we actually, we'll translate the question to German, our response forms in German, all the, audience targeting, all that kind of stuff is in German. We'll automate the translation back to you in English and do like, an AI summary, or it could be in Chinese. So we've localized our app on the customer side in Chinese, because we have so many Chinese customers. So they could be, asking people in Germany, would they buy this product, in their supermarket or their digital marketplace. And that's just super invigorating to know that we're enabling small businesses anywhere, or large businesses, to gather feedback from, almost anyone on the planet about a product or service that they're selling. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's pretty cool. So where does the AI part come in? Is it more in the summarization of the results?
Yeah, it's more on the analysis right now. I mean, we're building out a lot more other stuff, but right now what we'll provide is a nice executive summary, kind of like what a research consultant might provide to you, some likes and dislikes, sentiment breakdown. And then we recently opened up to beta this kind of like a ChatGPT style open prompt, where basically you're just querying the results of that specific survey. So dive in deeper onto like what could I improve on option B, or hey, rewrite the marketing copy based off what everyone said, right? So just a very highly contextualized version of ChatGPT.
Right. That's cool. That's really cool. Kudos to you guys. I mean, this is obviously a gap that you found in the market, and you realize that. And I can see, because design is always it's difficult, right?
Yeah.
Because it's basically coming out. It's very difficult to do, and such a creative process, and it's a result of your own brain.
Yeah.
There is no consensus on design. You got to come up with something, test it out, see if it works.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you have a tool where you can quickly get that feedback and get some insights is terrific.
Yeah. It's funny because on that topic of like creativity, we've had some people express concern around like, oh, well, isn't this going to stifle creativity? And it's actually the inverse, right? Like the ability to test creative directions and ideas earlier allowed you to kind of like break free from what maybe you think is the safe way to go for
Right.
like your creative design. So maybe your brand always has a certain look and you're scared to try something a little bit more exciting, but maybe it will actually resonate and people won't misconstrue it as like some crazy mistake, right? So the more that we can get it into the hands of the actual designers, the creative directors, I think is really empowering to them to allow them to explore new directions for brands.
Really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So quick question. So in terms of industry and verticals that you want to focus on,
Yeah.
do you feel that there's one over the other that kind of you're better suited to? Or is it
I mean,
all over?
yeah, right now we are focused more on like retail brands or any kind of brand selling to consumers. So whether digitally or physically, we do have a large concentration of e-commerce sellers just because there's, that's I think there are smaller businesses that are e-commerce businesses, and so they've been easier to reach. As time has gone on, we've been getting into some larger, more traditional corporate customers that are selling online and then bringing this tool set over to what they're doing in store. So that's an interesting crossover that we're seeing, and we're trying to focus on anyone who's selling directly to consumers, but definitely on like the physical.
So you guys still bootstrapped, or you raised?
Yeah, still self-funded. Yeah.
Nice. That's terrific. Congratulations. That's not easy to do. So
yeah, for sure. A lot of challenges.
Yeah, but it's a good way to do it given the present environment. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I see something here which caught my eye, which says how to increase CTR by 12% with a single image change. So what's that about? I mean, everybody wants to increase CTR, right?
Yeah.
Rates.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, so that was for a product called Yes Bar, which you might be familiar. It's like like a protein bar type thing, and so they were selling on Amazon, and so this is a digital example. But they wanted to run an experiment and just see if what a minor tweak to their main image would do. And so what they did was they took their existing main image, they made it just a few variations to like how the package was, the product was laid out in the main image, and maybe put some little design on it. Tested well on PickFu. I think it was like a $60 test. They ran like basically a single test, replaced the main image with that winning one, and immediately saw a 12% increase in click-through rate. Didn't touch anything, let it sit for a couple of weeks to make sure it stabilized, and immediately that's thousands of dollars in sales.
Yeah.
And so $60 PickFu tests to validate that kind of thing. And of course, you could continue doing that for your other products, or just improving that main image more and more. And if you could do this early in the process, then your packaging is what needs to work first before your marketing creatives. And what we find is a lot of companies will come to us just trying to optimize the marketing creative, but when you read through the responses, people are not happy about their product design or the branding or the core thing itself, right? So that's why we tell them, like, hey, you really needed to get feedback earlier, because you're kind of hopeless. Like like people don't like your product. They think your brand is silly. like what can we do? We can only improve the main image that much.
Right. No, that's a fantastic story. So that's awesome. Gary, anything else? I mean,
no, this is really fantastic.
So
yeah. So Justin, how do people find you?
So they could find me on LinkedIn, Justin Chen. I'm pretty active there. They can come to PickFu, PickFu.com. It's all self-service. You can create an account for free. It starts at $15, like I said, $1 per response. We have a really helpful customer success team that you can write into or hop on a free strategy call, and our success managers will train you and train your team and give you all the best practices for how other brands are testing things. So we're just trying to make it really easy, especially for people who don't have any experience in doing this kind of consumer research.
Yeah. Huh.
Wow. So do you also have like people testing out? I think you mentioned the big app icons and
Yep.
things like maybe an app screen change, and you want to check to see
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have some of the biggest mobile game companies out there. Gaming is our second industry that we do focus on. But the biggest mobile game companies out there are testing app icons and app store screenshots, and then earlier in the process, testing characters, game UX, really iterating on all the small decisions. Do you like this menu? Do you like this, character movement, whatever it is?
Yeah.
These are all micro decisions, and they're going to have a big impact on the eventual product, right? So instead of just waiting to get things into beta testers and then have them complain about something, like get some feedback earlier.
No, super. This is really interesting. I don't think we've ever had a conversation around these kind of surveys ever. But congratulations again. It's great having you on the Retail Perch. And for those of you who want to reach out and maybe use the service in your stores, maybe you're thinking of changing up your branding or your logo or whatever it is, and the companies are constantly looking to change their branding and make sure that their company name is represented, that's aligned with their mission and their vision, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think
and that's a popular question that people do, like take a look at this branding or this marketing creative and rate on a scale of 1 to 5. Like, does it,
and just spend a couple $100 and get some response. Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic. That's
it's inexpensive consumer research.
Right. Exactly. Well, listen, do you want to say anything before we close out here? But it's been terrific speaking to you. So anything you want to go throw out to our audience here that you think would be something that you learned from your career at PickFu? If they were to test something, give you a free tip.
I think getting open-ended feedback, first of all, like people always ask, what's the first thing that I should do? And a lot of times maybe they don't have variations that they need to test. So what I recommend people doing is just coming to our site, asking a question like, take a look at this product, like, what do you like or dislike about it? Something simple like that, right? Just, it's a nice teaser to see that, people are looking at this, and analyzing it, giving their actual feedback. Or you could do the thing with the competitors and just see, how do you gauge against your competitor? Which product would you buy in the store? I think anyone would be surprised, and you don't have to have your designer or anyone create mock-ups or anything like that. So, just a great way to get a litmus test of how you're, perceived right now.
Yeah, well, if you're a marketer out there working at a retail company and you want to test your ideas, you know who to go to. So Justin, again, it's been terrific having you on here, and Gary, good to be back here with you on the Retail Perch. And I also want to thank, I know it's been a while since we thanked our production team, but Stephanie and team that consistently put this out. Maybe we should do a PickFu survey with our Retail Perch logo here and see what you think about it.
Do it. Figure out what topics are of most interest.
Exactly. I think it's a great idea for us to test this out. So, Justin, again, thank you very much. Gary, anything to close out?
No, Justin, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, guys. And, I know summer's coming on here, and you guys stay safe and have a wonderful summer. Talk to you soon. Bye. Make sure to join us every Monday and connect with us at the Retail Perch on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at theretailperch@birdseye.com.
Until next time, this is Shekar.
And this is Gary, signing off.